Bridges are wild. Form a bridge, beat the royal bridge.
You see a bridge? Then raise you 3 bridges. Bridge!
G'day, it's Pete here, and I'm here with Nick Jacob. Unfortunately, we don't have Elena Moskowski with us. We've just got a picture of her, just so you've got a little reminder of what she looks like. But we're back here for the Triple Dummy podcast, where we talk all things bridge. How's it going, Nick?
It's going pretty well, Pete. Just got back from Gold Coast, like you, and about 1,000 other bridge players across Australia, New Zealand, and the world. So it's going well.
Did you recover? Like, usually after a bridge event, it takes me like a few days of just sleeping a lot to actually get back to normal. What about you?
It was even worse this time around. I developed a fever just before getting on the plane, and when I was on the plane, I was just, I was kind of buried, head in hands, and just hating life. It was a 3-hour flight, so it wasn't the worst. But, we've got the paramedics when I arrived, and so I turned and what would have been an already annoying arrival time of about 1 a.m. to something like 2:30 by the time we get home. So, and then the last few days I've just been completely zonked out, which is nothing new, fever or otherwise. But it takes a lot out of you, emotionally, spiritually, as well as physically.
No, unlucky.
Yeah.
Feeling better now?
A little bit better.
No,
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Anyway, this episode, we're just going to talk about the Gold Coast Congress, which just happened last week. A bit about the results, but also what they do right. Also things that we reckon they can do to improve. A little while ago, we had the Oz Open trials. We haven't actually talked about that since. So just recapping that. And a bit of what's to come with Reno over in America. And then just a bit of discussion for the improving players about whether they should choose to play restricted events or should they actually go for open events. Anyway, we'll get into it, and there was lots of stuff that happened in Gold Coast. They have about 1,000 events, so I won't actually go through and list all the winners because that'll take too long. So I'll just be biased and only talk about the Open. There's 2 main events. There's the Gold Coast Pairs, probably the best pairs event in Australia, and then there was also the Gold Coast Teams. So the pairs event was won very narrowly by Howard Melbourne and Barbara Travis.
Yeah, they finished with something like 5 out of 6 tops in the last 2 rounds, and another really big score to overtake Ashley Bark and Michael Cornell. I think the margin in the end was only a fraction of a match point.
Yeah.
2-9 of the match point. So, yeah, down to the wire.
Yeah. That was rather impressive because we were trying to work out how to get a fraction of a match point, and it turned out one of the boards got adjusted, which now creates fractional match points and all this sort of stuff, which none of the players knew how the score was actually happening.
Right.
And well done to Barbara Howard for getting up, but Ash and Mike were doing really well. They were leading it all the way through, but just couldn't quite hang on. So
yeah, they must be devastated. They've come for 2 years in a row. I think they've finished second. I think they finished second last year as well. But regardless of where they finished last year, it was the same situation. They were leading most of the way through, only to watch it slip away at the end. So it's pretty challenging. With a lot of these big pairs events, you can get swooped by a number of good pairs in contention. Especially with the way people play as well. They know, you want to win. You're not going to go back to the family and brag about 4th or 5th place. You want the numero uno, right? You want to get your 4 or 5 tops out of the last 2 rounds and just see what happens. So, I think it's pretty cool. I think it's very exciting because obviously the Gold Coast Pairs final is done by a barometer, and it wasn't just the A final that was incredibly close. The B final as well, between which was eventually won by Ishmael Del Monte and Justin Howard over Max Hembest and Adam Edgerton, was also something like maybe 1 match point in it.
Yeah, just 1 match point.
Yeah, just really infinitesimial. So, yeah, it's very exciting, especially to watch on Barometer.
Yeah,
gives you sort of something to root for, someone to root for when you're just hovering down and getting 37% like me and Roger did in the first set of the final. So,
for those that don't know. For those that don't know, Barometer is just a style of scoring where everyone plays the same boards at the same time, so that then you get your scores after each round. So they're playing, 3 board rounds?
Yep.
Yeah. And after the 3 boards, while you're playing the next set, you can see your score up. Unlike other duplicate sessions or team matches where you have to wait till the end of the session or anything like that, you get your actual score of where you're placing and everyone else that you're actually comparing with. So it's a really good style for actually working out when you have to catch up and things like that. But it's tricky to give everyone the same boards at the same time.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's one of the best things about the Gold Coast pairs is the final, which is 3 sessions of pure Barometer. There should be very little waiting because all of the A final starts with boards 1 to 3, pass them down to the B final, and pass them to the C final, and so on and so on. So everyone's playing boards at the same time. There's no waiting; it's easier on the dealers. The only thing is that if you do get slow pairs, it really eats into everyone's time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not complaining too much, but there are a few people who everyone was waiting for it. I think in the very first session of the final, they set up a spare table so that if the table you wanted to get to was occupied, you could just start playing boards at this spare table, because everyone waiting for 5 or 10 minutes after a move has been called to start boards is ridiculous.
Yeah. Spare table does fix it, but it also does mean that everyone feels that they're able to take the time and it just slows down a lot. I noticed that the A final was, I'd say, significantly slower than the other sections. I guess it makes some sense because everyone is really, really caring a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but more than the others, because they feel like there's more on the line because the event's still there. But you still feel like they should be playing 2 time, and it kind of feels bad if they're using more time than they're allocated and things like that.
Yeah, that's right. So, yeah, I mean, I know Ron Klinger and Matt Malumphy were, who would obviously not go down as Australia's fastest pair. They've had their slow play problems in the past, but they never got to. I think they only got to start a set on time once, outside of the very first set of the day, and that was just after they'd played the people they were following, who are Michael Cornell and Ashley Park, who are also not well renowned for being a particularly fast pair. So, yeah, it's a little frustrating because, in a teams match, say you're playing 14 boards, I think, with the typical segments in Gold Coast. Playing 14 boards, you can have a couple of slow boards, but you'll catch that up over time.
Yeah.
If you have a couple of slow boards in a 3-board set, you are basically routing everyone else if they want to play on time. So,
yeah,
it's pretty tough. I'm not really sure what the solution is.
Maybe something you've found. You're also usually in a pretty quick partnership, and me and Justin are pretty quick. But I was talking to one of the Australian directors, Laurie, one time, and he said that he finds the slowest pair that he knows in the room and puts the fastest pair behind them. Do you find that like you're always having to wait for people because you're in a fast partnership and they just make you wait because they know it won't delay the whole event?
Well, Ella's pointing frantically at herself and saying that, yeah, that's exactly what happens. But yeah, I don't really have that experience. I guess I know. So normally in New Zealand, there is not quite the same innovation as Laura uses in setting a draw. So I know a lot of people follow each other in terms of last names.
Yeah.
Especially at New Zealand, at the New Zealand pairs. So, you'll have, I know one of the Kiwi guys, Grant Jarvis, would often be saying at Congress, please, 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 just whatever draw I get, just don't make me sit behind Linda Cartner, who's a New Zealand women's player. And without fail, because of his partnership or whatever, they fall behind Linda Cartner. And it's just, and he plays pretty quick. Grant plays pretty quickly. Linda plays very slowly, and they just, it's like bashing your head against a wall. You sit down, you start play 5 minutes after you're supposed to, you finish play 5 minutes before you're supposed to, and you wait for 10 minutes for the whole process to continue. So there are a couple other things about pairs that I don't like. But actually, that's probably the big one in terms of the speed of players and getting to tables and starting on time and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get back to more of the Gold Coast results. So that was all about the pairs. The teams is the other major part of it. And this was won by the Konetka team, which had Bruce Neal, Avi Konetka, Pauline Gumby, and Warren Laser. Just a 4-person team. They've been around playing all the time. They always do consistently well, and good win for them. And they managed to knock off the Gold team, which did really well to get to the final. They've got Vanessa Brown, Lee Gold, Joe Haffer, William Jenner O'Shea, and Mike Doki. They had a very tough route through the round of 6, through the round of 4, and then into the final. And they would have been pleased getting there, but unfortunately they couldn't quite make it all the way.
Yeah, it was a tremendous effort from both the teams, really. I think Therese said at the victory dinner that it was the first time a domestic team of full Australian players had won the Gold Coast for at least a decade, I think.
Yeah.
So it's been a really good effort, and not only that, but this year had some really powerful teams with international players on them as well. The Nun team is always strong, always has a couple of Kiwi internationals and Irish international, English international, and Fiona Brown and Hugh McGann, and your team was obviously strong as well. It was there was you and Justin and Mike.
No, I wasn't on that team.
No, you weren't on that team. Sorry.
Yeah, the team that my partner was on.
Yeah, you were not Ishmael, but yeah, so Ishmael and Justin. So yeah, that is quite a step down from having Pete Hollands. That's obvious. But yeah, a team with Ishmael and the Kiwi guys on it. It's very strong. Roger Lee playing on the Milne team. So yeah, it was, and of course the Poles and Lithuanians, the Vinaconis team and the Indonesian team, all sorts of really top-notch teams, and it was quite amazing actually who got through to the semi-finals. It looked like the way would be clear for Nunn to do what Nunn does best, but full credit to both the finalists. I think one thing that I found quite interesting is that Konetka wasn't really challenged much throughout the tournament. Yeah. I think we talked at some stage about how you can sort of, just stroll through a national event, an incredibly difficult national event, and it all just falls your way. I, I don't know if they feel that way about it, but they were at the top of the qualifying the entire way through. Their semi-final opponents conceded, and the final wasn't close, really, in the end. So, yeah, I think they'll feel like a job that it was a job well done, you know. And yeah, good. I think a well-deserved result as well.
Yeah.
Gumby Laser have had huge results domestically, so it's nice to see them pull off a team's win. And Arvi and Bruce obviously did very well on the seniors bowl team last year. So
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Yeah, no, that was all good. You mentioned one of the American national players that came out, Roger Lee, but most people might not know who he was. I think there was a good comment that I heard you say about introducing who Roger actually is. Do you want to?
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So I mean, I was talking about him playing with me because I played with him. I was lucky enough to play with him in the pairs, and I said, oh well, sort of. So maybe a step up from your regular partner, Roger. And he had a little chuckle. And for those who don't know, Roger Lee's regular partner is Bob Hammond. Possibly on a short list of about 2 with Benito Garozzo for the finest player in history. And yeah, so he's a 28-year-old guy. He coached and captained the American junior team over in Croatia last year. So yeah, I mean, it's not so bad. Not so bad playing with a guy who plays with Bob Hammond. Yeah, he's a very smart guy, a very good player. It was, it was definitely a privilege to play with him.
Yeah. All right, so we'll move on to the next thing. Of Gold Coast Congress is the most popular Australian national and really, really big. I think they had something like 571 teams or something, not just in the Open, but throughout the whole event. Some ridiculous number. So they definitely do a lot of things right. What do you reckon they do better than other nationals?
They're so good about promoting the youth. It's it's head and shoulders above just about any other event I've played anywhere. This year, for instance, they introduced another new feature, which was youth players having $10 per night accommodation at a very reasonable apartment. They offer half price entry for under 26s and completely free entry for under 21s, I think.
Yeah, and also over 100s, I think.
Yeah, that's right, which is good.
So if you want to wait for free entry, you can still get it. Don't worry, you'll just have to wait a little while.
Yeah. You're either eligible for it now or at some point in the future. So, yeah, it's that's very good. They had they also had a sort of meet the internationals youth party as well, which was really cool, and another really fun thing that they did this year was they played a sort of walk-in youth pairs event where some local Gold Coast club members could play as well, and basically just have pizzas, have some drinks, and enjoy yourself, and then at the end of it sit down for a 4-board knockout match between the top 4 qualifying young partnerships. So it was really cool. Really fun.
They do the youth well, but I also think they also look after the restricted and novices. They have so many different categories, and I think they advertise it well and get people in. And so they've got like novices, restricted, intermediate. I can't even name all the lists, but they've got all the stuff there, and they allow them like their space to do it as well. But also, I think they don't isolate them or make it different. I'm not sure how, but they do make the inexperienced people feel really, really welcome about coming along. And getting them in, which I'm not sure if other congresses do as good a job at looking after the novices. Like there might be one novice section or one something for inexperienced people, but the Gold Coast puts a lot of effort into that, and they also do some good teaching stuff. Like they ran, in fact, you ran a seminar. They've got lots of coaching seminars.
Yeah, it's a. I mean, really, when you think of the Gold Coast Congress, for me, I don't really think of a tournament first. I mean, I'm sort of geared that way, thinking about, the pairs and the teams and the championships. But the Gold Coast Congress is really a package. It's a package of, of great place to stay, very accessible accommodation, accessible venue, transport, events for all levels, as well as the teaching and the seminars. So I think it's designed to be much more of a holistic approach to bridge, rather than just being about the champions squaring off against each other. It caters a lot for, all right, let's acknowledge that most of our bridge players, don't get so much time to travel each year. They've all got jobs and families. They've all got lots of places where they could go. Let's make this Congress the one where they really want to go. Like every year they want to say, all right, I'm putting this week aside, I'm going to Gold Coast and have a great time. And I think that's such a winning culture, because so many New Zealand players of all skill ranges and experience ranges go to the Gold Coast Congress. And it's like once you go, you just keep going.
Yeah.
It's just something that, really delivers on a lot of levels.
Yeah. I heard from them that I think after the event, all the organisers get together, and it's a big, there are a lot of organisers, but Kim Alloway and Therese Tully put a lot of effort in. But they get together and then discuss what worked and what didn't work, and every year they try and improve it. Whereas there are some nationals where I think once it's done, they're like, oh, good, it's like, I'm over it for like half a year, and then I'll start worrying it again. But for them, I think it's just a continual process. Okay, we're finished, but let's start revising on what we did well, what we could improve. And I think that's a good approach to actually improving it, but it takes a lot of effort on their part.
Yeah, it does. It's a really superhuman effort. So, it's going to be interesting in a couple of years when, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Is it Tim Runting?
Yeah.
It's definitely
Yes,
Tim.
yes. Yeah.
The convener's changing over, so in 2018, I think. So that'll be a big step up and challenge.
Yeah, that's right. So he's got a couple of years to learn the ropes from Therese, who's done an amazing job with the Congress. It's, I feel like, when I think of the Gold Coast, I think that, the Pairs event is probably the premier event in Australasia. It's not quite as, the competition is better, but it's maybe not quite as, the format isn't quite as good as the New Zealand Pairs, but and the teams kind of falls down in some ways. So but that doesn't really matter so much in terms of formats and all that, because it gets the best players, it gets everyone, and as you said, the organisers have an attitude of wanting to improve it every time.
Yep.
So in my mind, it can only keep getting better.
Yeah. So talking about improving, what would you change about it?
I don't think they need to do much to the. So I'm very much focusing on the caliber of the championships first.
Yeah.
So making it so that that the Gold Coast can have the premier teams event in Australia as well as the premier pairs event. I don't think you need to do much to the match point pairs event. I think that maybe it needs one more session, which could be managed. But if you had one more session, then you could have sort of you know, kind of like 3 sessions of qualifying and 3 of final. It'd be a little bit less brutal and cutthroat than the 2 sessions of qualifying and 3 of final, where you have how many sections are there? Sort of
They go up to G, I think.
yeah. So that's about 8, 7. It's about 7 finals. So the entire field gets split into 7, and then you play finals. So if you have one bad qualifying session, you might end up pottering down in the D or E final, which can. And the thing is that, especially the B and C finals, can actually be quite strong. Some years they might even be stronger than an A final if you looked at them at the pairs on paper. So I think that to avoid that, you either need to have bigger finals, which I'm not really a fan of. I think the number they have at the moment is quite good, or you need to have a little bit more endurance in the qualifying.
Yeah, I heard that one of the they do have this time to do 3 sessions because on the Monday there's only 1 session of bridge rather than 2, so they do have the space to fill that up. But I heard that if you stop the qualifying and then start the final, the turnover for all that's really a bit difficult for score corrections and all kinds of other things like that. Of getting that all done is a bit difficult, so that's why they stop the qualifying on the first day. So I think it would be nice to have more qualifying, but I think that the pairs event does a good enough job, and I don't mind a little bit of randomness in where you qualify if you don't pull your finger out and play really well.
Yep, fair enough. So, should we look at the bigger question, in my opinion, and I'm sure in yours as well?
Yeah.
The teams. What do you reckon about the format for the teams? Do you reckon it could be better? What do you reckon we have to do to get it better?
So I think it could be better. It's pretty cutthroat at the moment, but because the pairs is, I guess, so long and they're in a limited time, it's tough for them. I think if they wanted to make the teams much better, they might need to make the play finish on Sunday rather than Saturday, which is something that they might not want to do, but I'm not sure why. So 6 pairs going through, and then a 20-board knockout, which is just a pretty short knockout for most people, is pretty cutthroat. But that being said, it's kind of like 1 extra round of Swiss, but just for the top 6. So
yeah.
It's got some good factors to it and some bad factors. I think it could be improved. I'm just not totally sure what I would change and what the repercussions would be, because I think a slightly longer knockout of 36 for the round of 6 or whatever. I don't mind 6 teams being the cut or whatever. That's fine. They're making the top 6 out of 200 is extremely difficult. But I don't mind them making that cut. But then only having a 20-board knockout to then, that's all really, really tough. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I'd be more in favour of a big change. I mean, I know it has a number of logistical downfalls, but I'd be really interested in them doing some kind of knockout. Maybe not necessarily knockout all the way through, but maybe seeding teams into divisions and qualifying a certain number. Say you've got a Premier Division and and a regular division or something. I don't know. You can use your creativity for the names.
Yeah.
But you might have a, say, I don't know. I mean, if you had a bunch of quality teams from the Premier Division who all kind of, played some seeding matches to see who qualifies into which part of the knockout bracket, and then the regular field has a Swiss to see who qualifies, and then playing through sort of a lower bracket to get into the
Yeah.
championship rank. It's way more complicated because you have to be much more, much sharper, more cutthroat with the seeding. You have to ensure you have the right number of teams entering, but it's probably something that would work for the Gold Coast because of how many teams enter. They have done similar things for, say, like the European Open teams in the past, not the representative ones where you have one team from Germany against a team from Italy, etc., etc. This is more like the European event where anyone can enter. They have such depth of teams and players that you can have different divisions pooling into the same amount. I'm not sure if that would work at the Gold Coast, but I think it's worth spicing it up a little bit because, I don't really see the kind of incentive in playing a 12-round Swiss, where 6 teams qualify, 2 of whom are straight into the semis, and 4 who, as you say, just play another Swiss match basically to see who goes through. It kind of, I'd rather go one way or the other. I'd almost rather just have, say, 4 divisions, and you have 2 days of qualifying within your own division, and the top 2 teams advance.
Yeah. So
These
different
top
pools.
teams, pools basically. Yeah, the 2 teams advance from these pools into the quarterfinals, and then they play a quarterfinal in a day, semi-final in a day, and a final in a day. Very similar to how it works in Canberra, and you would obviously have to have a prestigious event to flow on from the teams.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't stay for the Ivy Gala Open Swiss pairs at the end. They want to head off as soon as the teams are finished. So I don't know, but they can do something with that. I think that would be reasonable, and in a way, you'd almost feel like it's maybe less brutal because it would still be very difficult to qualify, but the competition and the goal. The goal is to win or come second. It's not, it's not like, oh yes, let's come 5th, or look, we came 6th, so we came 7th, nightmare. Like, to me, it seems arbitrary. Like, I don't understand why, coming 6th was so great and 7th is so awful.
But it would have the same thing between 2nd and 3rd in your pool.
It would, but it's true. Maybe 8 pools is what you want. You just want what you think that, the Swiss format is not designed to find the top 10 or the top 6 or the top 8 or the top 16 teams. It's just designed to find a winner at some stage. And I think if you look at Swiss teams' results, so if you look at the qualifying, you look at who actually won the qualifying, almost every year, in every competition, it's a worthwhile team that won the Swiss qualifying. By worthwhile, I don't mean that they're good players, whatever. I mean they were up there the whole time. They were winning against good teams. They often have a decent margin or whatever. But you look at some of the teams that qualify, and they just snuck in there. They just had 2 good wins to finish or something like that.
Yeah.
And everyone hates that element of Swiss. Everyone knows what to expect from Swiss, that this is what happens. But maybe we should use Swiss for what it's designed for, which is to find a winner. Yeah. Maybe we can't find 1 winner, we find 2, whatever. And go from
Or
there.
if you can't find 2, you find 6, and then we've got the method we've got.
That's right. We'll get there in the end, Pete. We just sell it to maybe we should be selling, 5 teams qualifying. Maybe for the next 5 years, that's what we should be doing. Then, we go back to 4, then to 3, then 2. Then we don't even have knockouts anymore. I don't know. They could do a lot, I think.
I think they could. I'm not sure if that's what the Gold Coast should go down, because their I think just trying to be the most popular Congress and things, and changing a radical change up to the teams, I think would be popular to the top end of the field. I'm not sure about the vast majority, so they probably don't want to change it up too radically. Whereas something like Canberra, even though it's a good teams event, could change it to be a better teams event and maybe change that sort of stuff. So I'm not sure if, I think that sort of things can be done, but I'm not sure if it's for the Gold Coast that I would do those sorts of changes.
Yeah, you could be right, because and we were talking to Roger about this as well, and he said that that once you start getting pools and getting knockout matches and brackets, it can become a bit daunting for new teams wanting to compete in the big leagues.
Yeah,
they look at and think, wow, we put our names forward, and we have to play against Klinger and Malamphy and Burgess and these guys to just to get through one round or whatever, and then it's all going to be we're just going to get thumped, and we're going to be down by 80 after the first segment, and we'll concede, and it's very easy to develop some negative kind of opinions towards this sort of stuff, because we are trying, with this. I mean, certainly, what I'm thinking is that if Gold Coast wants a Premier Teams Championship, where the team's champion is, sort of unreservedly won the thing and deserved to win it, and everyone's kind of had a chance to, but also, you haven't been rewarded by too much luck or whatever. You are going to isolate a lot of the player base. You're going to keep, you'll keep the elite players happy, but you don't really want to push or force too many people into the different bracketed events, like the restricted, novice, and intermediate, and so on.
Yeah, and the elite players aren't the ones that pay for the Congress, so I don't think those sorts of changes are going to happen anytime too soon, but it's worth considering things like that. Any changes you'd make to the social environment around there? They've got good accommodation. For me personally, though, I reckon there's no central bar area. So lots of the good events that I go to, there's one sort of central hangout that lots of the top players go, and the young aspiring players can hang out, ask questions, and that might change over time as drinking after bridge isn't the thing, but currently that's lots of people's way to unwind. And at the Gold Coast there is a bar, but it's a 10-minute walk, and not that many people know about it, and on half the days it's terrible as well. There's just not that many good spots there for sort of unwinding and socializing. So that's what I'd change. What about you?
What did you check out the bar that they tried to establish at the venue this time around?
Yeah, I had a couple of drinks there. They stayed open for 1.5 drinks. They were trying to close it by the time I had the second one after play. And it's $2 to $3 more expensive than anywhere else you'd go.
That's terrible. Yeah. So that's not gonna cut it. But yeah, I agree with you completely. Right? You think of pretty much all the. Another Congress I'd say is in a similar position as the Spring Nationals in Sydney.
Yeah.
Very much lacks a common area for people to go to and unwind. But New Zealand Congress, Canberra, these places, even Adelaide is maybe even a bit, maybe not so much.
But
maybe not so much. But
New Zealand does it really well.
Yeah, New Zealand does it the best.
Yeah.
Canberra does it pretty well.
Yeah.
And probably nowhere else does it that well.
Yeah.
But I think for an event, especially for the Gold Coast, where, which is a lot more similar to New Zealand Congress than to the Summer Festival of Bridge, It's designed to bring as many people as it can, to target as many different levels as it can, and to just promote the game and to, promote social activities and to be very involving. So I think I'm with you. I would love it if they could, I mean, it doesn't even really have to be about the Congress organisers setting up a bar.
Yeah.
It's more like them choosing a bar and going up to having an arrangement with the bar. Okay, look, if we can fill this place with bridge patrons for the next, 7 or 8 nights or whatever, can you give us some deals, or can you make sure that we have seats reserved? I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
And if it was close enough, then everyone would go there, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I'm with you. That would be a really progressive change. And I'm sure they've thought about it a lot. The problem is that in a place like Gold Coast, you have a lot of, it's not like these bars and restaurants are normally struggling for clientele. It's a pretty bustling place.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on to the next thing, which was the Oz Open trials. Happened about 3 weeks ago. We haven't talked about it since. So the Australian team was selected, and it was the Nunn team, with Sataj Hans and Tony Nunn, Peter Gill, Andrew Peake, Bill Jacobs, and Ben Thompson. So a lot of familiar names there, doing really well.
Congratulations to those guys. Congratulations to the runner-ups as well. Also, our host Pete, playing with Justin Howard and Liam Milne, Nye Griffiths, Stephen Burgess, and Gabby Lawrence. Pretty gutting, I suppose, but you deal with it pretty well, don't you, Pete?
There's enough events that I lose. I get used to it.
Yeah, silver is the new gold.
Yeah.
I think only runner-ups, only people who always can runner-up, know that phrase. That's all right. I got your back, bud.
Yeah, but no, it was a good event. Held in Canberra, which was a bit weird. It's the first time it'd been held in Canberra for a while. They had some issues finding it in Sydney, but 3/4 of the player base comes down from Sydney to play in it. And I'd already been in Canberra the week before, so by now it's been like week of bridge, week off, week of bridge, week off, week of bridge. It's like, oh god, looking forward to a break.
Yeah.
But you're not getting a break. You're about to head over to America, aren't you?
That's right. It's first time playing in an NABC, so it's very exciting. I hadn't really intended to play in it. I asked around a bit, and Sataj managed to sort out a game with me. I've talked about this last time, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very exciting. So I've got not only that, I'm going from Auckland with all my stuff that I'm moving with me to Japan. So going from here to San Fran to Reno to LA to Tokyo to Hirosaki before I finally settle down. So it's going to be hectic.
Chaotic little month or so for you.
Yeah, that's right. But it's going to be good. I can't wait. I know that, we're very privileged in Australia in particular with the way events are run. Directors are very approachable. It's very easy to take care of appeals. People generally aren't too litigious or kind of surly about directors and so on. But also, duplicated boards and the online scores, hand records, everything is so easy to access. If I could, pay Matt McManus to score every bridge event in the world, I would gladly do so.
He does do a great job.
Yeah, him and Peter Bush can just sort it out, and I'll be over the moon.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting without all the usual, all those usual crutches to keep me going through the rigors of playing bridge, but it'll be alright.
Yeah. What differences do you expect? Do you have any idea what you expect over there?
Way fewer systems. So yeah, in Australia, I mean, you play against people who play mosquito when they're not vulnerable, and modified precision when they're vulnerable, and others who play like submarine transfer openings, and forcing passes, and just all sorts of stuff. It's just, it's like I mean, some people would call it a cesspool or a waste disposal system, but I quite like it. I think it's it's more like a brewery or something where you experiment with a lot of crap. A lot of it just blows up in your face, but it's, you find some hidden gems, and I think that it contributes a lot to general awareness and of different inferences you can take. I mean, I was talking to Sataj and he was saying, look, you have to alert stuff like a club pass, a heart pass, a no trump, because it could have 4 spades. And I'm like, really? It's like, yeah. You're like, if you don't, then people will just assume you don't have 4 spades.
Yeah.
And to me, like, I would never dream of taking that inference without asking the question.
Yeah.
In any bridge event that I played, sometimes I'd be like, can this person have 5 spades for their one club, their one no trump? So
you're asking if, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Can he have 5 hearts?
Yeah. But they're probably mirrored, right? He's got 5 3 3 2, it's a 5 3 3 2. No advantage playing in hearts, clearly. So playing the 9 trick game rather than the 10 trick game. Yeah, seriously, it's it's going to be quite different. I'm going to have to keep a bit more on my toes about that.
Yeah.
And I think as well, like, a lot is expected of general behaviour. Like, I don't know. I mean, I tend to banter quite a bit at the table. Not so much while hands are taking place, but before, introducing myself to opponents and all that, and having a laugh about things. I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. See what it's like.
Have to keep tabs and let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's gonna be good.
Let us know what they do better, what we do better.
Yeah. One thing I'm definitely excited for is the competition. Just getting to play against some amazing players from all over the world. And long knockout matches are very nice.
Yeah, no, that all sounds good. Final thing we're going to discuss is a bit of tips for inexperienced people of when they've got the choice of playing in the restricted or playing in the open. What are your thoughts on how they should approach that and what they should do?
Well, it's probably one of the first times that I followed any restricted event was at the Gold Coast when one of the young women that I've been teaching, Kenya from Auckland, was playing in the restricted, and so I was following that very keenly. Her pair finished first on Datum. The team qualified first. They won the final, and then she also won a raffle to play with Michael Courtney in New Zealand.
Nice.
Play with an expert raffle. I was thinking, wow, this is your first Gold Coast, and I still dream of having a Gold Coast even close to as good as that. After 10 years. Yeah. So, yeah, I was really excited about that. It's very nice to see. So, but yeah, I mean, and it was very refreshing talking to her and her partner Andrew about, their attitude, and they thought, yeah, okay, this was really good. We played well, but we're ready for the step up now. Once you won the restricted, it's like, all right, it's time to throw yourself in the deep end now. Time to put some hard yards in, get beaten up by the open players, and learn the tools of the trade. So it's I think that's the perfect attitude. You go because you don't always want to play at your experience level. You often want to play above it. so that you can learn from people who, have been there and done that. And so it can improve your bidding judgment, and it can help you think about how they play the game, what they're thinking about, what they're doing in their with their carding. All these sorts of things you just gain so much more from playing at an open level than playing at a restricted or intermediate or a flighted level, I suppose. So yeah, I would say that if you haven't been to a Congress before and you haven't played much bridge, and you go along to your first national Congress, then by all means play in restricted. Maybe play in it for a couple of years until you're comfortable. But if you're serious about this game, serious enough to watch us anyway, then I would suggest after a couple of goes in the restricted, or intermediate or novice, whichever bracket you fall into, I'd suggest leveling up and trying your hand at the open and just seeing how you go against better players.
Yeah. I agree. I reckon give it a few shots, but even if you don't win restricted, some people think that they have to stay in restricted till they win, or get kicked out from earning too many master points. But I think, like, even if you give it a go, you can give open a go, and if you find it too daunting, you can go back and have another one, and then give open a go another go in like a year or so or whatever. But I think that restricted's there to sort of trampoline you into the open, give you a bit of experience in it, get you in your comfort zone around your peers, but then you can also go and play in the tougher leagues and try and beat up some open players, which you'll do, and lose to some that will inevitably happen, but give it a shot. I mentioned not waiting till you win restricted because there are a lot of people that go back and play restricted when they really, really shouldn't be because they're doing so well. And like if they've moved internationally or anything that means that they don't have the master points that represents their skill level, and they go, I just want to go win something, and then they just do that. So lots of the actual restricted players don't actually get a shot doing that. I know I did that once with under 300, so slightly restricted thing, where I went away to a Yay Brothers, which is basically a World Open Invitational. Then I came back, and then one of the other youth players said, hey, we're both about to get about 300 master points. How about we go play this restricted event? I was like, sure. We went on. We didn't even win. Like, there was like... we came third. There was like 2 other pairs doing like the exact same thing. But it's just like... If you can't win a restricted, there's always pairs that will do that because they want to win. If you do win, then like all the more to you for like being able to do that. I must admit I only did that once, and then I was like, okay, I'm done with doing that sort of stuff. I don't want to go in and try and get an easy win and lose again. That doesn't work for me. But I think the main thing is like, yeah, go ahead, go get some experience playing restricted, but after you do a couple of times, make sure you're not afraid of the open. Go there, get in, because you learn a lot more by playing in the tougher field and meeting these tough players, seeing what they do. Because after you play them, you can even ask them questions, because if you wanted to go ask questions to a top player, it's a lot easier if you've already met them, played against them, and they know who you are, rather than being a complete stranger. So I reckon give the open a shot when you're comfortable, but don't just hide away and restricted, but by all means, go ahead and go play it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any final words, or shall we wrap it up?
I think wrapping up's good. I'm going to crawl myself back to bed and, snuggle up, I think. It's getting the last of the light, a bit of fresh air. It's been good. Very nice.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Nick, and we'll see you next time. All right.
Will do.
Bye for now.